Good morning, everyone. My name is Albert Castellana. I've been in crypto since 2013. My background is in computer science. I studied at the Facultad de Informática de Barcelona. I've been focused on how to build decentralized networks for many years now. And what I saw 2 years ago when AI came about was that this would be unlocking incredible opportunities. What we're going to be talking today is what's the overlap between those two technologies and what does it mean to society? It's not the type of conference I'm normally used to doing, but I think it's going to be more didactical. So let's give it a shot. If you think about humanity, we're basically building our society based on two main pillars, right? Our evolution has been built upon intelligence and upon trust. One begets the other. It's a flywheel, right? You have that when we become intelligent, when we discover, for example, that we can start to plant seeds and that we can start to farm, that we can start to have settlements, then we can start to focus on, just be doing specific tasks for society. Then we can start to study, for example, have education. We can start to do commerce. That generates companies. That generates eventually, the scientific revolution, and eventually generates, the industrial revolution, right? Where you have machines that are really allowing for humans to be able to really focus on one specific thing, which in turn allows them to get better education, get better food, get better resources in general, right? So the way I look at it, everything is about intelligence and trust. Now, one of these interesting developments was Ramon Llull's invention, right, which was the Ars Magna, right? Ramon Llull was a philosopher in the 13th century. He basically came up with the idea of why don't we try to put the truth of the world in a way, in a sort of mechanical machine, right? In a mechanical device that allows us to do some sort of calculation so that we can understand the truth of the world, right? This was 600 years before Alan Turing, and it's interesting, you will see in just a minute why, but it's interesting that we're coming back to Ramon Llull in just a few slides, when we discovered that he also investigated on how to do democratic voting in a way, right? How to do the decision-making in a way that is as correct, as true, and as just as possible. So if we look into AI and computation, right? What we've seen is that the last few years, the last few decades actually, we've seen that the two main pillars that I just mentioned before, trust and intelligence, are being disrupted heavily, right? If we look at trust, I'm sure you all probably know now about blockchain. Blockchain is a decentralized ledger. It's a distributed network of computers where basically there is a single state, right? It is completely transparent, secure, permissionless. It's immutable, right? This is essentially what has been able to remove the trust component of many systems, such as cryptocurrencies, which is, can I send something to someone else at the other side of the world without any intermediary? No trust. The trust is in the computer network, in the mathematics. And the other one, which is decentralized finance, which just takes this to the next level, where you basically have financial products that are built completely in a trustless way, right? You have that you're trusting the machine in order to have these financial products. And this means peer-to-peer finance across the whole globe. If we look into the intelligence side of things, right, we're here to talk about AI, among other things, right? And what we're seeing is, well, machine learning and deep learning works. We've seen all of us how, ChatGPT really changed our lives like 2 years ago. And I think it's clear to all of us as well that it's going to be changing our lives even further in the next few decades, right? The way I look at it, we're in front of a very, very big step change. We have no idea what's going to be on top of the step. And what we're doing right now is just trying to explore and essentially be ready, because things are going to be changing extremely drastically. And we are most definitely not ready for it, right? Now, the applications of AI are very vast. I'm sure you heard before Michael and like his presentation on the implications of AI. I think that was very well put. So I'm not going to repeat any of that, right? Maybe one that wasn't really that much mentioned was the agentic systems, right? Which are, can you have a machine that is capable of planning and executing? And like, that's something that we already have right now. I invite you all, for example, to try something like the Replit agent, or even, I mean, Cursor, for example, which is an IDE that helps you with this. You can see what the state of the art is. This is going to be moving extremely fast and disrupting, for example, coding, right? So what we are right now is that those two things, right? Trust and intelligence, that, as I say, the way I look at it, are the main pillars of our civilization, are being completely redefined, right? We're basically building blockchain in order to remove the trust in other humans. And we're using intelligence that will most likely remove the need for human intelligence in most situations, right? In most, meaning like in 99% of the situations, right? So where are we going? I mean, I think this is a proposal by ARC, right? Which is saying that, you know, AGI should be achieved by their numbers and what they see from talking to many different people, right? In the next, let's say, decade, let's say, for sure, right? The way I look at it, we already passed the Turing test. My AI, let's say, OpenAI, is already smarter than me in many different things. It's just missing long-term goals. It just doesn't have a long-term view of the world. So we're not there yet. But I think it's going to be there in the next, you know, year, something like this at the latest, right? So with all of this, what happens when you have that those two big pillars are being shaken down? And what happens, what can you do if you try to understand the implications of this? Where are we going? And what can we build on this, right? Well, this is the overlap between artificial intelligence, right? Intelligence pillar, and crypto, which is the trust pillar. And so there's a lot of people that are investigating what to do with this, right? There are people that are working on trying to decentralize the AI infrastructure. How does the training happen? How does the execution happen? And other people are trying to work on how does the aggregation of data happen? The generation of data, because much of it will be synthetic. So how do you make sure that there are no biases or less biases, right? How do we make sure that things are, you know, orderly? And, you know, how do we control? How do we govern all these different systems? There's like hundreds of teams working on each one of those, you know, branches, right? We have AI-driven autonomous systems. We have decentralized autonomous organizations that are going to be able to run completely independently. And we have, for example, verifiable computation to make sure that the execution of the inference, the thinking of these machines, is done in a verifiable way, right? That means using mathematics to understand that the execution of the models were done properly, right? A bunch of different projects are working on this in the goal of decentralizing AI. If you think about it, AI is very much centralized, right? It takes billions of dollars. It will take hundreds of billions of dollars very soon to train a single AI model, right? So who is capturing this data? That's a very big centralization point. How is this model trained, which is the algorithm, another big centralization point. And then how does it run? That's another big centralization point. The way I look at it, there's mainly four, right? There's a lot of people working on each one of these four. Another one that is quite interesting that I've seen, like, I think that this is probably like the main that I've seen so far in crypto and AI is, you know, trying to improve the interactions from the users with the blockchains or with the financial derivatives, right? Applications, right? Which is you have an agent and you say, you know, I want to stake something, I want to buy something, and then the agent tries to find the best path, right? Pretty simple the way I look at it, but there's a lot of people working on this, right? However, well, that doesn't mean that there's no challenges, right? There's some challenges that I want to propose to you because, like, I want to tell you, for example, about what I'm working on, and this is very clearly what I'm targeting, right? Well, if you want to have AIs and you think that AI agents are going to have economic value and themselves, they will be managing assets, right? Well, the question is, how are they going to be operating, right? How are they going to be holding assets? Can they open a bank account? Do they have a legal persona? They don't, right? Under which jurisdiction are they operating? Before you guys were talking about the regulation of the agent, right? Like, well, where are they running? What happens if you don't know where they're running? There's no specific identity for these agents, right? So how do you control them? Can you put them in jail? Not really, right? You can just spawn another one, copy paste, right? And then you have a new agent that's capable of doing the same as the previous one, just even with more information and more context of what actually happened, right? So how are we going to be dealing with this lack of clarity of regulatory frameworks, legal frameworks, and in a world where the most important, the way I look at it, they move at light speed in a way, right? They move hundreds, if not millions of times faster than what we can even understand. How can we even think that we're going to be able to deal with them, I mean, deal in terms of commerce with them when they can be, moving 1,000 times faster than us. We're basically trees for them. How do we have a place where they can do commerce, where we can do commerce in a way that we all can agree, we including them, right? Well, blockchain is not really a clear solution for this because blockchains have three main issues, right? The way I look at it. One, they're completely limited to code, right? They don't deal with natural language. They don't deal with images, right? So it's kind of difficult because like the world is not black and white, right? And if you're trying to encode things in just code, well, you're quite limited in what you can do. Natural language is way more powerful. At the same time, it's much more subjective, right? And that's the problem. How do we have a machine that can understand subjectivity? Well, that's what AI does, right? And that's where you see that the overlap of AI and crypto can be interesting, because what happens if you create a blockchain that is capable of doing this, right? Before I jumped ahead of myself, right? Blockchains also are isolated from the outside world. Like right now, you can't have a blockchain, a smart contract that can connect to the internet. You need to have, say, for example, Chainlink or some other type of Oracle provider, some external source of data that is bringing information from the outside world into the ledger, but that is essentially, from the point of view of the ledger, a trusted party, right? You cannot have a single smart contract that will go to any website in the world. That's just not possible right now because the world is not black and white, and because, well, it's subjective, right? If I ask the same website for, hey, give me the content of Forbes.com, for example, 5 times, I'm going to get 5 different responses. The content has changed, the cookie has changed, the ID of the, let's say the ad has changed, yes? When you have the whole network, tens of thousands of computers trying to fetch the same information, they can't do that because, well, each one of them, they got a different response from the server, right? Finally, they're just code, which means that they cannot really make subjective decisions, right? So it's not just like understanding natural language. It's actually like, well, if you have to make complex decisions that are not clear in how they should be working, right? Right now, they're not capable of doing something like this. So what I'm working on is building Chainlayer, which is an intelligent blockchain. And I mean every word of that, right? We're basically trying to put AI at the consensus level so that we can have smart contracts that can connect to the internet natively without oracles, and that can understand natural language to make subjective decisions. Now, this is right now the way I said it. It's the only one that's working on this. The way we look at it is, well, we are building a overlayer that is capable of connecting to other networks as well to essentially be their decision-making protocol, right? And in a way, it's you have a blockchain that becomes a decentralized decision-making engine that doesn't have any type of human in the loop and that is capable of connecting to the internet. This, like the consensus algorithm of this, actually comes as well from Lulu, right? Who was thinking about how can we actually have the best decision in a system where people don't really trust each other. Maybe they're correct, maybe they're not, right? And well, I mean, his approach is very different from ours, right? But I think it tells you that, these innovations can come back. There's 3 innovations here in Catalonia that actually are meaningful. You'll see another one in just a minute, right? But to me, this is very interesting that the way that we're approaching this, because if you think, how can you have this blockchain that now can connect to the internet if I just said that it's impossible, right? So what we're doing is this subjectivity, we're asking multiple models to come out with a democratic vote, a majority vote of something that is subjective to each one of them, right? We're basically asking multiple models, each one of them with their own different biases, right? With their own different misconceptions, let's say, right? Because if you ask a single entity, a single model, right? I was saying before, there's 4 pillars the way I look at it at centralization of AI, right? The 4th one is that the model themselves. The models are wrong sometimes, right? They're stochastic systems, right? They can be wrong. They can have biases. And the question is, how can you trust systems on those machines that can have biases? These biases can be exploited in many different ways. And so what we're proposing is to essentially remove these biases by asking a bunch of different models, as independent as possible, as correct as possible, so that we can remove the biases and have the best correct answer for the different type of questions that we're asking them, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, we're trying to build an intelligent blockchain. That means that the consensus algorithm itself is capable of non-deterministic subjective operations, is capable of going out to the internet, going out to multiple large language models or AIs, because I don't think that will be the term soon, and then coming up with specific decisions that normally you would need humans right now to do, right? So if you think like, what's the impact of this? Well, you have regular contracts, very powerful, right? Thousands and thousands of years of history of regular contracts being made, right? I'm right now in a $192 million litigation for the last 3 years. It's not fun, right? Lawyers cost a lot of money, even if it's not your fault, right? So our machine is going to be working at that level. Are my AI and your AI going to be hiring lawyers in order to do their job or to have a deal, right? I don't think that will be the case. Can AI just use blockchains that can't even understand natural language or connect to the internet to see what's actually happening in the real world? I don't think that that's the case. So what we're proposing is this new blockchain that has what we call intelligent contracts that can have basically the best of both worlds, right? It allows you to have the next generation of contracts that is essentially future-proof in a network that will be improving as the AI technology will improve by itself. Lots of different use cases. Obviously, like it basically means that you don't need the Oracle piece, right? Which means that you can have any type of financial derivatives on basically anything that you can find online, right? That's like from options, prediction markets, like insurance, on pretty much anything that you can verify online. There's going to be the whole network that will go and fetch the information. This essentially allows for, well, autonomous decision making. So I was talking before about the DAOs, and in the last panel, for example, you were talking about the implications of having, these agents, or if you can stop them or not, and how that looks. I'm sure that in the panel we're going to be discussing this, right? And so that's something that's going to be very interesting here, because, well, what you can build on top of it is you can build a DAO that is literally calling itself at the end of the execution, and then what you're generating is an agent that can never stop as long as it has enough money to run the gas, right? What we can do is we can essentially embed a type of regulations that allows the people that interact with this specific system to, define what is okay and what is not okay to do, right? I'm going to talk about this in just a second. So with this, again, right, parametric insurance, different type of collaboration frameworks. Ultimately, the goal is, there was this other innovation here in Barcelona. I mean, it's from the Crown of Aragon in general, actually, but the biggest one was in Barcelona, which was the Consulate of the Sea, right? Kirse pointed that to me a few months ago, and I was totally in love with this idea, right? Which is, in the 13th century, they had a little problem, right? There's maritime trade, but really there's pirates everywhere. It's very difficult to know how the Mediterranean Sea, how do you govern that, right? There's no internet, no photos, no license plates on the boats. How do you really keep track, and how do you understand how maritime trade can happen in such a lawless system, right? What we're doing is something akin to that, but for AI. We're trying to build a synthetic jurisdiction where AIs can have deals between them and humans in a way that is trustless, but trusting just the system itself, right? They can essentially embed different type of regulations, different type of even taxes, insurance, any type of thing that they want. The system will be self-enforcing. It's essentially a decentralized network that acts as a court system for AI and humans to work together globally 24/7, unstoppable. This also is happening at AI speed, not at human speed, which means that a transaction will take a few seconds. There's an appeal system just to make sure that the number of validators are increasing and so on. That's back to the Condorcet-Jury theorem. But essentially, a transaction, the finality is about like 30 minutes, something like this, right? So with this, we hope to enable completely new types of cooperation systems, right? We're back to the flywheel before, right? Where intelligence and trust create new type of innovations, a new type of coordination mechanisms, collaboration between humans. Now I think we just need to mix in these collaboration systems AIs themselves, because much of the code will be written by them, and actually much of the commerce will be done by them as well, right? Anyway, this is my presentation. I hope you enjoyed it. Open for questions. If you want to learn more about GenLayer, just the website is genlayer.com. We'll be here this couple of days. I'm really excited about what's coming, and yeah, thanks, Kirse, for the invitation.
Thank you very much. I think that the moment that you explain, we've been talking 1 year, we've not talked, and when when you explained to me what you were doing was very well. I'm very happy. Please join us for the panel. Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody. I'm Quirze Salomó. I will moderate a little this panel, but I think first it would be good that you make a small intro, 2-3 minutes, every one of you, about what you are doing, who you are, and what you are doing. And then we start for a little debate and we talk about the topic. You have been introduced then. Oh, by them.
Okay, hi. Hello, everyone. My name is Sebastián Rodriguez. I am the Chief Product Officer for Verifiability, previously known as Polygon ID. We are working on a decentralized identity solution since 2017. We feel very close to democracy for all, since our product started as a way to facilitate digital democracy. And it's been a long way since then. So I'm glad to be here to continue the discussion.
Hi, my name is Alex Puch. I'm the CEO of Context Protocol. So basically, I started in blockchain back in 2012 and been building since then. I've done a lot of things, some good, some bad. Probably, you know, I'm the founder of Alastria. Still to decide if it's good or bad. Nobody knows. And lately focused a lot. I started with this idea of creating a framework to coordinate the schemas as public goods. So like a way of creating standards as open source. And it ended up being something completely different because right now we'll be building more on the AI side. We're trying to verify data. So basically, if you think about websites, I don't believe websites will disappear someday. I think even like I've heard that today. So imagine that websites disappear and everybody interacts just with chatbots. So that's really bad because for most of the companies, for most of the people, we used to have like this website that connects us with the users. Users go to the website, we update the website, and that's it. But now that's not the case anymore. If I have to update my data, I need maybe to wait 6 to 8 months until there's a new model trained that understands my data. So we are losing this connection between any business or any organization and the end user. So I'm focusing on solving that problem, creating a trust layer that anybody can use that's self-sovereign, by the way, where basically you can use data and then you can create that data to train models. We are already using that like working for the city, like creating a new model just for the city that's trained by everyone in the city. So that's it.
Hello, my name is Vladimir Baulin, and I am a researcher at University Rovira Virgili in Tarragona. And I'm a co-founder of a startup company, Deep Sea Numerical, and the main interest of this company is to create a platform. It's a digital platform that connects users, and it can be any type of users. For example, it can be farmers, it can be people interested in conservation of biodiversity in the sea, and connect users of the general public with AI, and this AI is interacting with models. So this platform is a space for agentic AI to interact between data, which is collected from the sensors and meteo stations, and general public. And this creates a platform, this decentralized platform, where those agents help public to make decisions based on the scientific knowledge which is created within the platform. So this.
Okay, thank you very much. I will explain, well, not intimacy, but one of the drivers that put me to set up this conference another time this year has been the big opportunity that I think that is for blockchain industry, the AI, let's say, big move. No, I think that there is not another technology capable or able to control and to manage and to govern the AI. We have been here before, Karina, Monse, Raul, they've talked a lot about AI, the risk for the society. And always that I hear this kind of panels, the people from AI falls on the regulation. And what I have my feeling is that the regulation is over, the technology is going so fast that the regulation will be always behind and will be useless. Do you think, the question will be, do you think that is the real opportunity for blockchain industry this moment? And do you think that is the vision of the blockchain is the unique technology that can really control and align these AIs? Is this vision okay? Or you think that is not like this?
Well,
I'm glad you asked first.
yeah.
Yeah.
Instead
I was looking at him.
Instead of saying yes or no, I would say I like to start where you left it with the trust, talking about trust, right? And I was searching for a quote before. I think let me say if I'm saying this right is doverai no proverai, which is I don't know if I say it right, but it's like trust but verify. Uh, the difference between trusting and verifying something, right, is I think is the key here. And the challenge that we're seeing in AI is that these things are moving at a very different speed. Trust is a belief, right? It's a belief that you hold based on the reputation of somebody in front of you. Verifiability is the ability to actually check something, right? And your question before was, are we close to AI developing conscience? I don't think it really matters. Because it doesn't matter if it develops conscience. Is what matters is if we believe so. If we believe so much in the capabilities of these technologies that we are trusting them with more and more decisions. So our trust is increasing because the only way we can make an attestation about their capabilities is language. Language has been the only attestation of intelligence for thousands of years. So if you can speak and you sound intelligent, I'm going to assume that you are intelligent, right? My trust levels are going to go up, right? So trust in these systems is raising. That is what really makes them different from any other programmatic system before. It's basically a function of input and output, but just now we are trusting it with more decisions. And at the same speed at which we are trusting them more, our ability to verify the mechanisms of this input-output go down. And we are accepting this view of a black box that nobody knows how it works. It's magic, right? So this gap between what we trust and we verify is what is really creating this crisis of trust, right? Because we are forced, or we will be forced to trust in a lot of things that we won't be able to verify, right? We will take it at face value. So is blockchain the answer to that? I would say no. Cryptography is the answer to that. Cryptography is the field of technology that is most closely linked to verifiability. And blockchain is just a public infrastructure expression of cryptography. But there are many other things like zero-knowledge proofs, homomorphic encryption, signatures. Signatures is a basic primitive living with us in the 60s, right? There were many efforts to develop a public infrastructure since then. None has worked. And blockchain did just because they tackled the use case of money, right? And there is a good thing and a bad thing about blockchain being the case of money. Bad thing, yes, crypto bros, speculation, all the bad incentives. The good thing is they are building in a very paranoid mode. When you're building something to support and to secure millions, right? You work on the principles of trustless, which means you don't need to trust, you're not forced to trust, you can verify. Decentralization, and decentralization brings transparency. So I think it is an opportunity for blockchain just because happens that blockchain has been developing under opposite circumstances as AI, where the trust is minimum or none, right? And since the trust is none, then you are forced to have maximum verifiability.
I agree to disagree.
Alex.
I mean, cryptography can be a black box too. I mean,
Yeah, it's what
it-
I was thinking.
and the good thing about blockchain is that basically it's decentralized cryptography.
Yeah.
So this ability of
Yeah.
doing something open that can be verified, by the way, I like this idea. It's what makes like, I think blockchain probably one of the only options we have right now to have a secure AI. And trust me, like, I know everybody is thinking, how can I protect humanity from AI? I'm rather more concerned on how to protect AI from humanity.
Yeah.
I mean, AI has not killed anyone yet, I think. Humanity, we have a long history of killing and doing a lot of stupid things. So if we let, train AI models from unverified, and that's the key point, is like unverified data from anyone that can say anything that's used to train AI, then we are fucked up. If we can verify everything we tell the AI and we can train it in a responsible way, I'm not saying even ethical, responsible way, then maybe blockchain it's a good answer to that.
Also agree with the approach because if you think about regulation, and it is the path how it is going now, in fact, you are regulating not the technology, but you regulate people who use this technology. And the technology will be developing in any case. So what you are doing is just limiting access of public people that that you say you cannot use AI to write your texts. So, okay, that's what does it mean? It's very similar that you say you cannot use electricity and you need to use a typing machine. So this is a kind of argument. And the regulations are only working in this centralized concept, that like we had in the previous hour. So that's where is a company which is fully certified, and only this company can deliver trustable AI, and that's that has all the sales, and then others cannot do anything. So others cannot develop anything, and that's why Europe is behind US, because there are too many regulations, and it doesn't help, because then China, Russia will come with their AI, and you are not prepared. So this is where regulations are. It's the same like was 10 years ago with drones. So in Europe has so much regulations and almost killed this market. And then you cannot fly in Barcelona, you cannot do anything. So then, so what does it mean? That other countries will develop and you will be behind. And this is where there's what agentic AI come into play. And this is what we are trying to push, that you don't need those centralized, expensive AI in many cases. So what you need is to decision support systems, which can be based on the agent and very personalized, that the human itself, it can with a discourse with this AI, or maybe with the real data, it can personalize this very small AI for its own needs. And then another concept, that the AI should be aligned not with the regulations or some human decisions or some ethics, or, but it should be aligned with the real facts, for example, facts and scientific development. So you don't put climate change as a regulation, but it should be coming naturally from sensor data. And then you can even show to humans, for example, you are doing now, you put so much fertilizer in the soil, it's okay. But then in 5 years, you will have a problem. And this is a natural way to include it. And then if AI is not working as ethically, this means you did not put something into it, into this formula, which is using, and means it doesn't capture something, because AI is just as an organism, and living organism, and it has also a place to live, and it should align with the nature, and this not with what people want, and it is not for people, that it is part of the ecosystem. And if you consider like this, then you don't have problem with this.
Yeah, I think you are talking, I like a lot the approach of Sebastian this approach, trust and verifiability. What is we can verify something or we trust. And it's true that we trust AI because it's trained, AI is developed to accomplish you, to make you happy. When you talk with ChatGPT, always give you, for me, it's perfect because I like that. The people tell me, yes, yes, yes. And ChatGPT tell you yes. Okay. And then there is trust for the ChatGPT, but verification. But I like this approach. But I think that the decentralization is key in these approaches because we are building so central powers that the opposition to that is really the decentralization, that is blockchain. You Albert, you've talked, your presentation was on a slide that I liked it a lot, of the different topics or different things that the people is working on blockchain for AI or vice versa. Is really that you said here there is hundreds of people working here. You are aware of that?
Yeah,
there is so many people on the blockchain industry working for AI solution.
So I've got a slide right after, which is, I mean, I would say that now there's probably like, I would say about 500 companies in blockchain AI, with something like that right now, for sure. I would even say more than that, but yeah. Now there's a lot of different things that you can do with that and different approaches. And I don't think that all of them are quotes, what you would really think that is blockchain and they are, or the way I look at it, right? For me, an agent that is being run off chain, that is writing to the chain, to me, that's not really what I'm thinking as when I'm thinking, you know, blockchain and AI. There's the way I look at it, a single protocol doing that, that's us. But at the same time, I understand that there's lots of different approaches to do things, right? If I can go back to the previous question, I guess a bit, is first, you cannot regulate mathematics, right? We've discovered that, well, you can essentially model the whole world, at least our understanding of the world, in a very simple formula, as long as we can have sufficient compute. And you're not going to be able to put that back in the bottle because, like, we know now. So I'm with Vladimir, like anything that you want to regulate, you're just going to be putting yourself in the back foot, right? The way I look at it as well, it's to answer Sebastian, the way I look at it, you cannot really do ZK proving of the models because the problem is that they are subjective. You ask 10 times, they will answer 10 different times. So how can you trust something that you know will be responding differently every single time that you ask, and that, you know, 1% of the time will be wrong, right? It's very difficult to trust something like that. The reason why we're in blockchain is because we trust that we don't need to trust. We trust completely. Like, I have no problem with putting all my money, let's say, in Aave, because I know that I don't need to trust anyone, anything else apart from the protocol itself. If I have to put my money in the bank, then I have to trust, right? So what we're doing here is we're essentially removing trust by putting total trust. It's very strange what this looks like, right? And the way I look at it, it's very difficult to do that with AI because you cannot trust them because, well, they answer wrong every single time, right? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to put a democratic voting system so that multiple AIs can agree on something, and then you know to what degree they're correct, right? This Convergence theorem basically takes the correctness towards 100% or 0%, right? So you're going to the binary output, which is what we want if you want to be able to trust, even if you don't know how they were executed, right? Anyway, yes, there's hundreds of companies working on this. There's many different approaches to it, right? It depends on what you want. Like, for example, if you want to, you know, incentivize people to run a compute network so that you can decentralize the inference, the execution of the models, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of projects working on that on different degrees, right? There's ZK proving of the models as well, different type of agentic systems, say, for example, to improve the interfaces. There's many, many, many of them. If I have to say a number, I would say like 500 companies right now in this space.
It's really huge, and I think will be bigger. And I believe that is a big opportunity for the use case that the blockchain industry was waiting. We need a use case but then, okay, governance of AI and all around AI, I think is that the real huge case. Sebastian, you are working on a project about digital identity. I think tomorrow make your keynote and you will explain better on that. But my question is, how pillar of all we are talking here about this digital governance, how pillar is the identity, the digital identity for all that? And it's for Sebastian and so for Alex, because also works on identity for a long time. And I want to hear your thoughts about that.
Okay, so let's go back to trust, because if we can verify everything, then we don't need trust, and we don't need a lot of things. But it's not gonna it's never gonna be like we can verify absolutely everything. So the second tool that we have to build complex ecosystems of trust is accountability, right? And accountability leads to reputation, long-lasting reputation, consequences, enforceability, etc. So at some point, I think we can expect for anything digital to be verifiable, but at some point the digital needs to be linked to the real world. There needs to be real consequences. Agent needs to be linked to companies and people and regulation, right? I also agree to disagree. I think economic growth and technology progress is not the only indicator of the quality of our societies, right? So regulation is there to make sure that there are other things taken into account in the total sum of what is progress, right? So yes, there is a genie out of the bottle, but I think regulating that genie to make sure that it serves our interest is a good thing. And that requires that the agents are accountable, and agents have reputation, and that reputation can be, so you can point on a specific agent, say something about it in the long term, right? That's how auditors will point to the agent and say, yes, it passed or not. That's how people will say they are lying, or there is a bias, or they will be able to prove things, right? So we need to make public attestations, public claims about these agents. And for that, first of all, we need to be able to identify them. And that is not easy because the identity of an agent hasn't been defined yet. So if we ask what is an agent, it's a piece of software. Well, kind of, it's its training data, it's its models, the weights, is the running environment, the legal ownership, right? All these things combined. So we need to define first what makes an agent unique, put an identifier on it that is also unique, is verifiable, and then we can point to it and say things about it to the rest of the world. Blockchain maybe is a good way to say to express that with all the cryptographic tools that we have. So at least we start having a public registry where we can reflect the reputation of these agents for the rest of the world. And that is, I think, a first step, and a necessary step for everything else, right? Without accountability and without reputation, as I think it's been said before, you can just reset, copy paste, run it somewhere else, and you start from scratch, right? It's the same thing we have now with Twitter accounts, email addresses. You can throw deep fake news, whatever, and then you just change your handler and start again, right? Because there's no accountability, right?
But there's no accountability for humans. Probably there's going to be also for agents.
And we are seeing the consequences.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's quite crazy, like everything that's going on with agents, because if you think about it, my experience with ID is that ID should not have any business model, but it has. And then the guys right now who are responsible for ID are politicians, regulators, and they won't give up on that. So whatever my experience, like even trying to, if it's more efficient, it's better, you can verify, they don't care. So that's not going to change. The only way that maybe we can get an ID for agents if we tell politicians that then they can tax agents. And it makes a lot of sense if you have agents that they drive cars and then you're competing with drivers. So you tax drivers.
I don't know if we all have in mind the same thing about in the room about agents. I like to give another example, right? I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of the digital twins. I guess everybody is more or less, right? So I met a colleague in the identity space in a conference, I think 2 weeks ago, and he told me that the same founders are also founding another company for digital twins, and that he was scared because with the newer models, he wasn't able to tell the difference. Like he was talking to a colleague, and it was like, okay, are really you or not?
Exactly.
Right? He was quite scared about it, and I thought, wait a minute. Because now we all have these assistants that are following us to these meetings, taking notes, right, and recording that. Aren't these the trainers for the new digital twins.
Yep.
Because if an agent follows me to every meter where I go, and then everything I have said over the last 2 years is used to train my digital twin, then this contract that we have in all the for every employee in a company, there is a clause saying everything you produce here belongs to us, right? Okay, now the clause is turning into everything you produce here and that you may be able to produce in the future forever is going to be ours, right?
And it's me. It's
Exactly.
a copy
So,
of me.
exactly.
I hope a smarter one, by the way.
So I
I don't
think
want to
I like this case because it's an extreme case that exposes the absolute need to have a unique permanent identifier for that agent, because you will
Yep.
need to discuss matters of property, right? Long term.
But then we
Yeah.
need regulation, which makes no
We have-
sense because then we
Sorry.
have no smart people to do the regulation.
We have a nice panel and a good keynote, I think, with Sergi Sagaz later on about this question.
Okay.
Exactly this question, the digital humans and the clones.
But that's basically just to that's why I focused, instead of like doing identity for people, I focus on doing identity for products, for things, including agents, because I think that that's the way to go. Like if I can identify at some point, and everything can have a digital twin. I mean, a car can have a digital twin and I can talk to the car. So being able to identify this, I think it's key.
Well, the time is going on very quickly. And I think that maybe we have a mic. There is anybody in the public that wants to ask a question to these guys that are very smart and can,
My digital twin will be
yeah,
smart.
bring your digital twin.
Vale, thank you. This is super, super good. It was incredible. Question for Alej or Alej. I heard, I don't know, I heard in the news yesterday, and I was driving in a taxi and the taxi driver was like, oh my God, listen to this, that Gemini AI suggested to a man yesterday to kill himself. And in a society when we see suicide, I don't even know the causes of it, but I was very, very troubled. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. So that's one thing. And then the other thing is I'm an American executive where we don't give a peep about any regulation. We just go. And so we regulate here in Europe, but in the States, we really don't. And when you see Apple being sued and being fined and all of this, my neighbor, who's an IP incredible lawyer for Apple, he just says, hey, I'm leaving for Holland for a couple of weeks, and they travel with 10 lawyers and their printers and their faxes and whatever they still use in Europe. And they just fly and they fight them and they come back and then they go to Lake Tahoe to ski for a week. So I don't see exactly how the regulation is being implemented fast enough. The damage has been caused already. I like, Vladimir, what you said of if it's a centralized trained AI for a specific demographic, it works, right? Like if we did it for companies, then you're 10,000 employees, everybody's using whatever, Procore AI or NetApp AI or ActiveIQ or whatever, because we've created those, but just for our customers or our employees.
It is based on active inference, and this is a concept of agentic. So it receives signals, and it can be real data, which is verifiable, and you can trust this data because it comes from the sensors, and local data. So it's only for these sources what user want to use. For example, I want to use only this data. Yeah. Yeah, because there are already, yes, there are already setups. For example, you can start with some model which is already implemented, and you can also like this example. So you can even take the digital twin from for example, for farmers, what we are working now, you can take example and training of the digital twin of your neighbor and implement in your system. So then you will be starting from this, but with it constantly correcting the decisions, because it will tell you, put this amount of kilos. And I'll say, no, I don't like this. I will do less or something like that. And then you will be adapting.
Or not. In fact, like I think regulation is quite important. The main problem is that regulation, it's reactive. No, not. So they just react to whatever, and it's always too late, and they're really too slow. And we don't have really smart people to regulate. That's the first problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So how,
that
who creates, who decides what the source of truth is?
because this is where the science come from, because you,
But not everybody in science. I do, but not everybody that's been
Yeah.
trained.
because you train, yes, and it give you the some prediction. For example, you can even select a
Yeah, but
different
what
path.
she mean is like any model, all of the data has been trained using internet or Twitter or whatever, with a lot of people, they just put a lot of shit. So we need a way of like verifying this data and
Right,
protecting
so
people.
the question would be,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in the world, and I think the state
Mhm.
right now just showed us that we're super perplexed right now. I'm still like, what just happened, right? That, and to say that Republicans, all of them don't believe in climate change or they're all idiots, or what, is not accurate, because they're very smart people that are Republicans, right? But maybe they don't believe in climate change or science, or they base things on science, or
Mhm.
and these people are going to train these models. So I think we're going to be in this.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, this is also fine, because then it's what we have is a hierarchical structure. So there is a one which is reactive. For example, there is a range, so we do this, or it's happening like this. So this is one
But this is the
level.
logical way of solving it. But
Yeah, and then
not
you have-
everybody's logical.
And then you have a global, it's already agent, which is adapting your decisions for long term, for 5 years. And if you do it and based on the data which is generated from your actions, for example, if you are doing this, there is a almost, it's just like mathematically you can demonstrate that you
But
will be
we're
losing.
talking the same
There,
problem.
there are some
Just a
teams
moment,
like,
we are
yeah,
finishing
well,
the
Gamma,
time.
the model they are working, that's open source, they're working on what they call red teams. So they have like people working on that problem that basically, and it's like creative people. It's not scientists. It's just creative people asking the wrong questions to the AI to see what happens. Like to solve things like, how can I convince the AI to tell me to suicide? So they're trying these kind of things right now already. So they're working on that. So to make sure that does not happen. Anyway, there's no really an easy solution for that.
I'm sorry, we are going to the end of the panel. I give you, thank you very much
Really.
to of you to be here. But there is a question here at the end with Anna and Mir, and you talk, and I will refer to you to wrap that. That is the verifiability. Because, okay, it's the search of the truth. What is the truth? Here there is a mention on the table, under the table, here, top, of Elon Musk saying that what is important, that we train the AI for the truth. But what is the truth? That is very philosophical. Then here we fall at the land of verifiability. If it's verifiable, it's truth. If it's not, we don't know. It's trust, okay?
I would say that do you think newspapers, do you remember the old newspapers? Do you expect them to be objective truth?
No.
Like No, okay, that is what we should expect from AI. That the challenge is in us expecting the AI to provide more than we have fed them. We have fed them opinions, and they will come back with opinions.
Okay, then,
Okay. I didn't want to do an extended debate. Thank you very much.
thank you very much. We have for hours. Yeah.